let's bring you up to date on what has happened in the Hamas-Israel war. It's been over a week since the Hamas terrorist attack on Israel. It killed 1,300 men, women and children. Since then, over 2,200 have reportedly been killed in Israel's retaliatory bombing campaign. Thousands of Palestinian civilians in Gaza continue to flee to the southern half of the Strip after Israel's order for over 1 million residents to flee the area. Even hospitals have been told to evacuate, a move the World Health Organization has said is tantamount to a death sentence. Hamas has told Gaza residents to stay put. Now, the people of Gaza await their fate after Israel announced it is gearing up for a comprehensive offensive involving air, sea and land. The IDF statement added that soldiers have a strong emphasis on a substantial ground operation. Meanwhile, the leader of Hamas is believed to have met with Iran's foreign minister at a meeting in Qatar where they agreed to continue cooperation against what they call Israel's occupation of Palestinian territory. Reaction to the planned escalation has come from all corners. The UN Relief Agency says Gaza is being pushed into an abyss, calling the situation the worst they've ever seen. Russia has asked the UN Security Council to vote on a draft resolution for an immediate ceasefire, with a vote expected tomorrow afternoon. So our reporter Charlie Peters is on the ground, ready to talk to us from Tel Aviv. He joins us now. Thank you very much indeed, Charlie, for joining us. Thank you. You are in Tel Aviv. Now, Gaza is bracing for an Israeli ground assault. We know that Israel has told Gaza residents to flee from the north. Can you bring us the very latest?
Sure. Well, the most recent kinetic effects taking place in this complex battle space have happened in the north, actually, away from Gaza, where Lebanese Hezbollah appear to have fired yet more of their anti-tank guided munitions into northern Israel. These skirmishes have been heightening in the last 24 hours. Although there have been several false alerts in the north where warning systems such as sirens and terror infiltration alerts have gone off without necessarily that action taking place, there have also been several legitimate reports of violence there. Footage we've seen over the last day and a half certainly showing that targeted munitions have been striking Israeli defences in the north. And that comes, of course, as the Israeli Defence Forces gather the bulk of their munitions and their personnel in the south for that imminent ground invasion. But as you said, there is still much more they need to do before that can start, and chiefly that begins with the removal of Palestinian civilians in the north of the Gaza Strip, in Gaza City, where there are some 1.1 million people who have been fleeing south since 2 mornings ago, when that warning was issued, or that order was issued rather, by the IDF through UN liaison officers. We don't know how many have made it out of Gaza City, but in a briefing last night, a spokesman said that hundreds of thousands had fled. But really, it will be insufficient until the IDF knows it can use advanced munitions on those Hamas military capabilities in the north, which it needs to do to shape the ground to prepare for that ground invasion. And so the delay continues. There will also be other reasons for that delay, the reason why we haven't seen that invasion just yet. Some of them are internal to the IDF, chief among them the logistical requirements needed there. Mobilising an army of 500,000 troops, kitting them out, giving them everything they need and putting them in the right place with the right equipment is no small feat. And last week, Israel, well, 8 days ago, it was at peace. Now it is in its gravest war for decades. People here saying it's the worst violence they've seen for 50 years. And so as it meets that logistical challenge, it also needs to remove the humanitarian challenge in North Gaza and reduce the threat and the risk of that awful phrase in war, collateral damage.
Charlie, you say we don't have an idea on the numbers of how many Gaza residents have now fled northern Gaza. Do we have an idea of how Israel are helping those flee? Is there some kind of humanitarian corridor? How many people are actually on the move currently? Do we have any estimate?
Well, they opened a new humanitarian safe corridor this afternoon from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. local time here, which has now closed. This was an area where the IDF said it would conduct no military activities along one of the two main supply routes south from Gaza City. There have been reports in the last day of Hamas deliberately blocking civilians as they flee south. Hamas, from its side, has also claimed that the Israeli Defense Forces have struck in an airstrike a convoy of 70 people. We can't verify the footage, but the IDF strictly claims that it absolutely has not done that and did not conduct any airstrikes on that location at that time. But still, many people have been dying as they've been fleeing, and it has been a desperate scene. The UN describes the humanitarian situation there as untenable, as international observers and charities such as the International Red Cross say that such a humanitarian operation, such a relocation, is impossible. It cannot be done. And so the delay, now well over 48 hours since that warning was issued, is now giving civilians more time to flee. And that also allows Israel not only to build up its logistical supplies into the south and reaffirm and secure its borders in the north, but it also allows them more time to gather intelligence. Where are Hamas hiding? In those tunnels underneath Gaza City, and it needs more information from air assets and also target acquisition capabilities it possesses to know where to strike first, so that when those first heavy armor convoys enter Gaza City, as they almost certainly will in the coming days, they strike accurately and as swiftly as possible.
An incredibly difficult and complex operation. Thank you very much indeed, Charlie Peters there, our reporter live from Tel Aviv.